So this is the croissant dough that I made. The bread with the butter. What you do is you roll it out, fold it, put it in the fridge, bring it out, roll it out, fold it, put it in the fridge. And you do that a bunch of times. I lost count of how many times I did it. So it's not perfect because the butter package was a little bit too much flour, but that's okay. Still gonna taste good. So this time, I'm rolling it out very, very thin. I keep looking at the camera and I keep looking at the screen, and it looks like I'm looking away. So I'm gonna move. I want to go this way. Maybe if I do that, it's a little better. Why does it look like I'm looking that way? I'm not, I'm looking that way. I took a day off and I've already forgotten everything I learned about how to do this. I was looking in YouTube because it lets you put these glasses fall down a lot. It lets you set a category, and the default is people and blogs, which makes sense. But I was looking for food and cooking, which doesn't seem to exist. I thought it was very odd because, and maybe this is just me, as far as I know, food and cooking is a very popular thing on YouTube. You're still only getting top of my head's cut off. So this dough smells amazing because it is not only a sourdough, but it has also been fermenting as dough as well. When I make bread, sometimes I will just get lazy and not bake it right away. So I will leave it out and it just gets more and more pungent. It's very lovely. If you like that kind of thing. Which, if you like sourdough, you probably do. So this board, as you can see, is not going to fit the whole thing. So what I'm going to do is even this out, and then I'm going to cut it in half. That's a really good use for a metal bench scraper. You get a nice cut. So one of the things that I learned when I was making croissants at Christmas is that it's actually really handy to use a ruler. I always used to make fun of TV chefs that use rulers, but it's nice to have that straight edge. A metal ruler is a really good one to have in the kitchen. I do not have a metal ruler. And in fact, I don't even really know what I'm going to do with these. So I was going to make croissants. I do have this ruler. Which you might recognize as quilting ruler. So it's see-through. Makes it very easy to line things up. So I was thinking I'm going to do a bunch of different shapes. I made classic triangle croissants at Christmas. I only just learned when I was looking this up at Christmas to teach myself how to make croissants. I only just learned that in France, different shapes have different meanings. There's two main shapes of croissants. There is the curved one. So it's a big triangle. You roll it up starting from the big end so you get that nice point, and then you curve it. And then the other one is just straight across. So it's flat, like a rod. And one of them, and I do not recall right now, one of them is made with real butter, and one of them is not. So if you were looking for, if you're looking for real butter croissants, that's what you want to look for. So this is 2 inches across. It's nice to just use that so you don't have to measure this way. And so what I'm thinking I might do is I'm just cutting off that edge there. So all my dough is on the board now. I'm thinking I'm just going to roll it up a little bit and make little rolls like that. And see how that works. Need a pan. So one of the things that I love about cooking anything with butter and what about that? I still feel like it's you're getting like just my forehead, so it makes me look, don't know. Oh, now you can see my hair. All right. So one of the things that I love here, I love about cooking with butter is that you don't have to worry about putting anything on the pan. When you're making cookies, there's so much fat in them that you don't need anything on the pan. So to make them not stick, at least in my experience. Especially if you have good pans. Same with pastry. And as I found, the same with laminated dough pastry. So this is all experimenting. Mostly because this is spring break, as I think I said before. And my mom works in the school. So she and my dad always take a vacation at spring break. And over the last I can hear the kids playing upstairs. It was very sweet. I heard the mom upstairs explaining to her little kids who are like grade 1 and grade 3, explaining to them what social distancing meant, and that's why they couldn't have their cousins to come over and play. You got to stay healthy for 10 more days because that's how long they have been distancing. So for the last almost 10 years now, my parents have been cruisers. This is very much my mom's obsession. She gets very into the planning, the research. She loves it. And my dad loves vacations that he doesn't have to plan. I said I was going to make something different, wasn't I? Because they're 2 inches, I could make I could make some very long triangles. Let's try this. So when my parents cruise, I house sit for them and take care of their cats. But this year, they are not going anywhere. So what that means, look at that cute little, it's like one of those fancy napkins on cruise ships. When I say at my parents' house, because they're gone for 2 weeks, I love to cook and bake out of my mom's many freezers and many pantries. My mom went shopping at Costco this week. I told her that was a mistake, but she still went. She really had no need to go to Costco. She has lots of food. But, there's stuff that she wants. These are just a little bit thick, so I'm just going to thin them out a little bit. One of the things that you want with all pastry, really, is the little skinny edges, because that way they get nice and crispy and brown. And So if you can put a little point on something, then that part of it is going to bake faster, right? This part is rolled up, but this part is flat. It's just one layer. So this part's going to get nice and crispy. This part's going to be nice and chewy. That is what I hope. So because I'm not house sitting, I don't get to do all of my fun baking and cooking experiments at my mom's house with my mom's supplies. And because I am a teacher who lives in the lowest tax bracket here in Canada, I don't always have a lot of stuff here. Very often I'll go months without having flour in my house just because it can be expensive to buy flour in the regular grocery store. You don't get a whole lot of it. It's like one of those little bags is enough to make one batch of bread. So I always wait to go to Costco and get the really big bag, but my mom has Costco membership. So, all right, take a look. When you're doing light colored things, it's like totally overexposed, but there you can see like the rolls. So I'm going to cover that and put it on the back counter there. Let it rise. And then make something else. So I do have cheese. I could make some stuff with cheese. That would be very good. And maybe some of my hand collected sea salt. Old cheddar. The oldest that you can find. Sea salt. So yesterday we got the news. I got a email from the farmer's market and it is going forward. May 3rd to Sunday. So I don't know. Seems like April is going to be, what day is it today? It's the 20th. So we still have 10 more days, 11 more days. January, February, March. March is 31, 11 more days of March to get through. I mean, if we stay, the numbers stay pretty steady, maybe by the end of March, we'll have a lot better information. But the truth is, a lot more people have died in Canada. Alberta has its first death, I think today, announced today. Quebec, yesterday or the day before. Ontario has 2 now. BC has 9, I think. 8 or 9. I think it's 9. So we have the highest number in the country, but it's spreading, obviously. We do not yet have a case in every province. Anyway, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about what we're eating during this quarantine. All right. You know what I think I'm gonna make? Let's do long ones. So let's do 5 inches. So this is 5 by 2 inches. And we'll do like cheese rolls. By the way, this is a silicone cover. So it doesn't fit this one exactly. It's rolling pins from my grandma. I really like it though because it's on an axle, so the handle stays stable, sturdy, you know, and the pin rolls around the metal thing. So I like that, the way that it rolls that way. And then this, because it's silicone, nothing sticks to it. Silicone. All right. So a little bit of cheese in the middle. It's always tempting to put more cheese because you love cheese. And if you are watching this with me, you should love cheese, right? I'm going to roll it this way. So instead of rolling it that way, I'm going to roll it lengthwise. And see how this works. Maybe go this way. Ooh, yeah. I really like that. I really roll it. It's like a cheese cigar. That's what it is. It's a cigar. All right, it's definitely sticking to the board now. Gonna need some more flour. The kids upstairs just got a dog. I think they got it for Christmas. That was about the time when it arrived. And it is one of those big, fluffy Muppet dogs. And it's very cute. And very loud sometimes. It's funny because I moved in here 5 years ago, and 5 years ago the girls were like 3 and 6. They were very, very young, and weren't out of the house a lot because, you know, one of them wasn't even in school. One of them, I think, was in half. So when I first moved in, it was a very loud place to live. And then finally, they were in school, and it was so nice and quiet because I work in the afternoon. So in my mornings, they weren't here, and then I would go to work, and they would come home. All right, I'm going to make this into 1. So I'm not going to measure it, just do it in half. So it was starting to get very quiet here. And then they got the dog, which, you know, I'm not mad about the dog. It's fine. I just think it's funny sometimes. Also, I wish I could have a cat. But my landlord is allergic. So I think that's why they got the breed that they got, because it's one of those hyperallergenic breeds. So See, this one might be a little bit too much cheese because it's sticking. All right. Those are going to be very tasty. And if you can see, not all the same size. This is where Mary Berry would be very displeased with me. All right, so I got this piece. It's very uneven. So I think what I might do is just do some very big chunks. Kind of like eclair. Just cheese in the middle. What was that one called? Like a slipper? Or like a hand pie. Maybe do it like that. Yeah. That'd be fun. See how that works out. I would probably, you'd want to do some little holes in there just to let the steam come up and so it doesn't puff up too much. Because remember, this is puff pastry. All right. So this one I'm going to turn kind of like an inch. Roll it like an inch. Yeah, there we go. So that's like a a lot of pain au chocolat are folded like this, where it's just flat rather than croissant. So even though pain au chocolat is the same croissant dough, it has like a stick of chocolate in the middle, so they just fold it flat like that. And this last little bit of cheese, stick it right there. And fold, 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 and do a little pinch, I think. Here we go. All right, definitely need another sheet. My pizza pan. The really great thing about croissants, with any puff pastry, is that you really don't need a lot of space in between things. It's not like cookies, where cookies start like this and then they spread. So when you put them on the sheet, you have to make sure that you have lots of space. These ones don't really spread, they just puff. So they go up rather than out. All right. So I have this dough left. And I think what I'm going to do is just put it back into the fridge for now. Just because I'm really curious to see how this turns out. So I'll try baking these things. And then once I learn from that, I will come back and try something else. And I might, I guess, end up just maybe baking this. So this stream video is called Einkorn. Because I'm going to make some einkorn bread. So this morning, while I was doing my coffee and breakfast, I did not do the dishes. I don't know if you can see that. No dishes in that rack back there. So this is water. Yeah, you can't really see it because it's water. It's honey, that Kohana rum honey from Hawaii. and east. So it's actually been sitting out for quite a while. But it's nice and warm in here, so it should be good. And last night I took out my starter. I put some in here, like a good quarter cup. And then I fed this twice. So I fed it last night, and then I fed it this morning. Oh, you really can't see that, can you? Yeah. The white inside of the bowl plus the beigeish. Ooh. It has a very savory smell. I was almost gonna say like mayonnaise. Weird. All right. So don't need that. Do need to do my dishes. So my mom and I went out to Chilliwack, which is about an hour's drive northeast, inland, which is where my grandparents live now. They've been living there for about 2 years. And it's basically a suburb. It's basically one more suburb of Vancouver. But it used to be farms. It still is farms, but it used to be farm country. It's not country anymore. It is a city. But it is still lots and lots of land for farms. So that is where corn on the cob comes from. The best corn on the cob in the entire world. I have nothing to back that up, but I know that is true. So we usually pick up some stuff. Mostly my grandma buys stuff and then gives it to us, and then we take it home. Yesterday, she gave me pumpkin. This says garden pumpkin, 2019 November. So that is orange pumpkin that she grew in her garden, and then she processed it and stuck it in the freezer. So I defrosted it, stuck it in my crock pot, some coconut milk. I made this vegetable, mostly kale, stock before Christmas. I think so. Yeah, it must have been before Christmas. So that was in my freezer. Curry powder, dehydrated onions. Dehydrated onions are one of the best things. Like, just buy one of those big 20-pound bags of just yellow or white onions, slice them up and dehydrate them, and it lasts all year long for whatever you need. Especially, everything that I put in my crock pot. Stick some onions in there. So I think what I'm going to do is put the water into here, just because there's a lot of stuff on the side. So I want to really scrape it, and that extra water is going to help me. And then it's going to go back into there. Well, maybe I'll just do it all in here. Anyway, so we were out in Chilliwack, and there's a place called Anita's Organic Mill, and they make all of their own flour. So they mill all their own flour that they grow or have grown for them. And it's all local, it's all Canadian, Canadian farms. And the most amazing thing is that they have all of these old heirloom varieties. So this is Einkorn, grown in Western Canada. That probably means Alberta, because if it was grown in BC, they'd probably say BC. Could be Saskatchewan too. To me, Alberta calls themselves the West. And I get that, because Alberta is like cattle country. So it's very cowboy. That's where the Calgary Stampede is. But to me, they're not the West, because, hello, We are the West Coast. You know, there's one more province before you get to the western part of Canada. BC is the West. But when people think of West as in Western, it's Alberta. I'm not going to put that in here now, but I am going to use this today. I've never ever used einkorn. I've never eaten einkorn. I'm really excited to try it. This is the most genetically primitive and ancient form of wheat. So this came into trend, I would say, less than 10 years ago. It suddenly became, once people started becoming gluten intolerant and also gluten insensitive, or gluten sensitive, yeah. Once people started eating or wanting more gluten-free food, this is when einkorn became really, really popular. And now it is affordable. This is 1 kilogram, and it was about $7. So I got that one. I got the einkorn, and then I also got the red fife. And red fife is a heritage grain that is considered to be Canada's oldest wheat variety. So red fife is very hardy and is very strong. So this is a very good bread flour. Not going to try that one today. Just going to do the einkorn. So I looked up some recipes. My friend Jessica in LA, who is currently in culinary school, asked me what I was going to make with the einkorn when I posted this on Instagram. And I said, I don't know. I haven't done any research. I don't know anything about einkorn, except that I knew that it was the oldest variety of wheat. What am I looking for? I'm looking for an implement. My favorite spatula is dirty. I'll try this. I'll use one of these. So the plastic ones are really good for bowls because you can really curve it. Obviously, this one's metal, so this one's for straight lines and cutting, and also really good for the board as well, too. All right. Can you see that? So because this is from the starter, there's already a lot of bulk going on. And I just really want to scrape up the sides. This is kind of like getting the fond off the bottom of a pan after you've cooked some meat. This is where the bench scraper is really going to come in handy. So one of the things that I read about einkorn is that it's very challenging to cook with 100% einkorn, which I was not planning to do anyway because this is such a small bag. I was really only thinking about using it the way that I would use whole wheat. So whole wheat has less gluten than all-purpose flour. So you can make bread from 100% whole wheat, but it has very different texture, very different crumb, which is what bakers call the inside of a loaf. It's a very different texture than a bread that has white flour in it. So a whole wheat flour has less gluten, doesn't have the same elasticity. So the way that I usually make what here we call brown bread, I was looking at Twitter last night, and I was reading a thread where somebody asked white bread or brown bread. just one of those Twitter things where people ask questions and then everyone gives their opinion. But there were a whole lot of people, and I'm guessing they were mostly Black Southern Americans. That's purely by association. Looking at most of their avatars and looking at speech patterns and that kind of stuff. So Black Southern culture, American culture, what they call Black Twitter. Anyway, a lot of people were saying, I've never heard anyone call it brown bread. So apparently that's not a thing in America. And I'd never noticed that before in my travels in America. Trying to get this one big chunk off the side, but it might just be there for good. The thing about making sourdough starter is that you are essentially also making a paste. I mean, that is the thing with anything made out of flour. And in actual fact, the French word for pasta is also the word for paste. Like, it means the same thing, out of context. So here we would call a bread that is mostly whole wheat, we call it brown bread. So like in a restaurant, especially at breakfast, my favorite meal, when somebody orders something that has toast, they ask you white or brown. They might also have like a multigrain, which would be a brown bread that has like seeds mostly on the outside, but sometimes sprinkled in a little bit. And then also sourdough, of course. But that's pretty much it. Rye and like pumpernickel, I think, is much more popular on the East Coast, not on the West Coast. And even there, I'm speaking like northeast of America, United States, not Canada. All right. So I'm going to do, because I pushed my computer so far back, I'm going to move this table. Maybe I'll move the computer back and see if we can angle it down so that you can get a better look at inside. All right, that's as much of an angle as yet. I have a brand new 27-inch iMac that I bought to replace an 11-inch Air that I had since 2011. I had it since early 2012. It was from 2011. All right. So this is starter and yeast. I'm not going to add any more water to this. It's very wet. So I'm going to add some fat. This is canola oil. I like to buy canola because you can get it in large containers, because I can use it for baking and for cooking. And it's fairly inexpensive. So that is my go-to. If my mom is going to buy me some groceries, I will definitely get some olive oil. But it's not something that's in my regular budget. So yeast, starter, fat. Now I'm going to start with the einkorn. So here's the thing that they said about einkorn. It's very yellow. See if we can get a better look at that. It's a very yellow flour. What you can do is you can squeeze it, and look at that, it holds together. It's almost like when you're making pastry and you squeeze it to see if it holds itself. And that's because, especially when it's fresh milled, it has so much natural oil in it. I'm just looking on the bag to see if they say they have a date. Ah, here we go. It has a best before February 25, 2021. Now, I would imagine that would be unopened because flour can go rancid. So I don't like to buy huge packages of specialty flours if I don't know what I'm using them for. You see that? So all I'm going to do here is just keep adding a little bit at a time, like half a cup at a time. It's going to take a lot. So I wonder if I should have put in the all-purpose flour first. Anyway, so that's like a cup of the einkorn. And I'm going to do a heaping cup of just all-purpose. And here I'm going to put salt. This is just a Hawaiian pink salt. If you go to the Indian markets, or if you go to a grocery store in an Indian dominant neighborhood, like many of the neighborhoods in Surrey, the regular Save On Foods, which is our mainstream grocery store here, they will have tons of Indian product, and you can always get the salt and the spices and the rice and the legumes, the lentils, in big quantities at really good prices. All right, so this is still very wet. Let's see, it's very sticky. I'm going to add more, another heaping flour, all-purpose flour. And very soon, I'm going to get in here with the bench scraper. I might even get in here with my hands. So the thing about cooking and baking bread, rather, I should say, on a stream like this, or even in any kind of live video, unedited version, is that you are not going to get to see the end of this, because I'm going to make this loaf And then I'm going to let it rise, or maybe even it's 12:44 right now, and I work at 2:30. So what I actually might do is just make this. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to finish this in here and cover it, let it proof while I'm at work. And then when I come home, I will shape it and bake it tonight. So if you are here on the stream tomorrow, I will show you what those loaves look like. All right, so what I like to do with my bench scraper is just stick it in the flour. So you just kind of get a little bit so that when you scrape something, it doesn't get all clumped up. So even though this stream is public, I didn't link it to anybody. Just because we're all busy. People have a lot of stuff on their minds right now. And a lot of people, meaning people I know, my friends, are still working. So they cannot just drop everything and watch me bake. So what I'm really trying to do here is just get into the bottom, because flour always settles in the bottom of a round bowl. All right, so starting to come together. So what I'm going to do So we decided not to use the KitchenAid today. Whew. I'm starting to really smell that soup, and I can't wait for lunch. So, flour. And because this dough is still a little bit wet, I'm going to put more flour on the board than I usually would. Scrape your bowls. Get all the good stuff out. Don't have any space. I also have to do my dishes. But you don't want to watch that. So, I also want a lot of flour on my hands. So you can see it's already picking up a lot. And it still feels, there's still sticky spots, which means that it's going to need more flour. And I'm just going to add it in handfuls like this instead of measuring with the cup. because I keep a cup measure in my bin, so it's very easy to transport. I keep my flour here, transport it over here while I'm cooking. But I don't want to add too much flour to this. And it's very easy to just scoop and dump, and then suddenly you have too much flour. Oh, this feels so nice. It really feels smooth. Like already. One of the things I was reading about einkorn flour is that it makes a very heavy dough, a very heavy bread. There was one recipe I read that said it takes 2 hands to carry the loaf to the table. So right now, just don't want that little bit of cheese in there. Right now, I'm just, maybe I'll do it this way so you can see, huh? I'm pushing, no, that's why you don't do it that way, because then this moves. All right, let's do, switch up the stream. Okay, there you go. Now I need more flour, and it's all the way over there. See, I'm blocking your view. And here's where you scoop a little bit and just stick it right there. All right. So, is that my blue dress making everything blue? So with the heels, I'm pushing and then folding. And then push and fold and rolling, right? And then it gets long again. So it's like folding and pushing. You always want to put it under and on the top, the flour. Because having flour on the top keeps your hands from sticking. Having flour on the bottom keeps the bread from sticking. Ooh. All right. This is feeling very good. Really smooth. I am really happy with this. So it's still just a little bit tacky. Yeah, I might just do a little bit more. Hopefully this will be the last flour addition. Yeah, I think that might be it. So remember that bread is very forgiving. You can knead it too much, but it takes a while to get to that point, to be honest. Now I'm just gonna pick up all the little bits that are hanging around, because this really helps to clean things up. So I'm also going to pick up a few little bits over there. That went flying. A little bit of einkorn up here. I'm just gonna grab that. I'll put that flour back in the container. All right, so I think what I'm gonna do is with a towel. Always use clean towels, please. I'm going to do like that. So it still has space to rise, but it's not going to stick because I'm going to be shaping this later. So I'm just going to leave it here. I'm going to leave this stuff here. Not going to, well, I'm not going to clean up this. I do have to clean up that though. That right there. Because I need to make some lunch before I go to work. Don't worry, I teach. Here. Hello. I teach very small classes. I teach 3 kids at a time, so we are still okay. We always have a desk in between us. So the other day we were measuring out our 2 meters distance. And I live in a pretty small town, so it's easy to find places to walk where you're not walking next to someone. I just heard something amazing. All the buses are free now. That's wonderful. Like allowing people to move where they need to move. They're also instituting like spacing. So they're asking people to board from the back of the bus so that the driver is safe. Anyway, I thought that was a very cool thing to do, to make the buses free, help people to get where they need to go if they need to go to a doctor, if they still need to go to work, because all of our grocery stores are still open. Restaurants are open for takeout, so go support one of your locals. I think tonight I am going to have a white spot hamburger. I'm going to pick it up on my way home. Because it's Friday. I kind of forgot it was Friday because my schedule's been so weird. I've been off for 2 days. Usually I'm only off on Wednesdays, so today feels a little bit like Thursday for me because it's like I'm going back to work now. I can't believe that was an hour. Wow. It was like an hour and 3 minutes. It's the exact same time from last time that I said I was going to end the stream and talk to you next time. I like doing these streams, not so much for the streaming part, but because it's making a video and I don't have to do anything. It literally, stick it up there. I don't care about editing. I don't even have to transcribe it. So I was looking at how to put captions in, right? Because if I'm talking for an hour, I want people to be able to know what I said. So I wanted to put captions in my video, and it led me, through all the little steps, it led me to a place that says transcription. So I figured that meant this is the place to write in what you're saying. So I transcribed that entire video from Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? It took me hours. I didn't expect it to take that long. I kind of wanted to see how long it would take to see if I could do this or if I needed to go look for some software somewhere. It turns out that YouTube does it completely automatically. You just have to turn the captions on, and then the transcription is for going in and editing. So it gets it pretty right. I was looking at the end when I was talking about zines, and it's spelled zines, Z-I-E-N-S. I don't know what that word is. And then it also, at some points, it said that I was talking about beans, which is very funny to me. So I didn't have to transcribe the whole thing. I only had to turn them on and then go and double check that all the words were correct. So it's actually going to be really easy for me to do these long, rambling videos, which would be what my podcast would have been. And I always thought about doing that. But then I always wanted to have transcripts as well, because even though I don't need those features, I know that lots of other people need those features. But also, I like those features because sometimes I don't want to listen. Sometimes I can't listen. Sometimes I just want to read it. You know, a lot of times people do podcasts and I really wish they would just write a blog post. Anyway, thank you for watching me baking in my kitchen. You can buy my sourdough starter. Can you read that? alldaybreakfast.org. All the links are in the bottom. You can buy my salt. You can buy my sourdough starter. And you can start to make sourdough bread in less than a week. Ooh. This is why I don't play sports. So with this sourdough starter, you are getting a boost to your brand new starter. This one is almost a year old that I've been maintaining it. So using this, you get an immediately mature starter, which you can then maintain yourself. You can continue on that starter. You can keep it going, and then you can share your starter with all of your friends, and we can spread this so that everyone's making sourdough bread. And some sea salt, which is from our Pacific Ocean right here. You know what I was thinking about doing? Because my dad now has some time on the weekends, and perhaps even later if his job finally decides to shut down, maybe making some smoked salt. So taking my salt and asking him if we can put together some kind of smoker with like some bricks or something. I thought that might be a really good idea. Anyway, thank you for watching. Now I need to go find my mouse so that I can turn this off. And I might see you tomorrow.